Greetings, folks. I'm Nate.
And I'm Chris, and you're watching the very first episode of Pros of Cons.
We have a great show for you today, but for those of you brave enough to find us, you may ask yourself, what is Pros of Cons?
This is a show about conventions, comics, anime, games, whatever the con, we're here to talk about it.
So, if you thought you were going to get tips on ways to swindle your neighbor, this may not help too much. Sorry about that. But stick with us. I assure you this won't lead you into any sort of jail time. Although if it does, please let us know.
We will show you video for some of the best conventions, give you helpful tips to survive and enjoy conventions, give interviews with convention organizers, panelists, and maybe a celebrity or two.
We'll also do everything we can to show you some great cosplay.
We'll even give you a rundown of upcoming cons.
And more cosplay!
Yes, Nate, we will be sure to feature a lot of amazing cosplay, both pictures we take and pictures sent in by you. Occasionally, we will have interviews with award-winning cosplayers and how-to videos from cosplayers.
Actually, Chris, I believe you have an interview with one Deanna Burns, who won Best Novice category from Yamacon last year.
Indeed I do, and we have a great look at the Gem City Comic-Con that was recently held in Dayton, Ohio. So what have you brought for us?
I'm bringing with me a survival guide, tips, tricks, and traps to avoid to help prepare those new con-goers out there to have the best time they can so they can become pros of cons like us.
But those are just the special features we have for this show. There are going to be things that we will do every week, starting with viewer mail.
Chris.
Okay, yeah. First show, no viewers yet, so no viewer mail. But we will have it next time.
I'm also going to give you some tips and pointers on con etiquette every show, because we've all run into that guy, and we want to make sure that that guy isn't you. I'll warn you though, this is a topic very near and dear to me, so I may at times get a little agitated.
So that's the word that we're going to go with. Okay, we want to welcome you to send in your cosplay pictures. Every show, we are going to pick our favorite and give it the Cosplay of the Show award. Tell them what they'll win, Nate.
We have no prize budget yet, I'm afraid. Yet, let's use yet.
Okay, so you'll win our appreciation and gratitude and let the world see your cosplay. We'll show you a few honorable mentions as well. We like cosplay, in case you haven't picked up on that.
You might also like to know what cons are going on in your area. So, each show we will be researching and sharing with you the different locations of cons around the nation. Of course, we won't have the time to go through the entire list during the show, so we'll highlight a few and then share the entire list on our Facebook page.
So if you want to notify us about a con going on in your area, or share with us your cosplay, or even tell us we suck, well, you can send us a message on our Facebook page. Just search for Pros of Cons, or you can email us at prosofcons@digitaledengames.com. We'll put the links to both of them in the comments on YouTube.
But please, don't tell us we suck. Really, unless we do.
Well, that being said, I suppose they're less likely to think we suck if we actually give them a show. So how about we get started?
Sure thing, Chris. Let's take a look at the footage we were able to bring back from the Gem City Comic-Con.
All right, today we are at the Gem City Comic-Con here in Dayton, Ohio. Looking at the surface, the Gem City Comic-Con is just another small local convention. Has your sales floor with a good variety of merchants and artists. Your game room, not only for established games, but to showcase the new designers. You have panels, both fan-based and professional. And then you have cosplayers to catch your eye just like any con. But having had the opportunity to experience it, there are a few things that stand out to me. I was able to get my first insights from con organizer Jesse Wobel. So I'm here with Jesse, the organizer of Gem City Comic-Con. Thanks for having us out here. We appreciate coming out here. Tell us a little bit about the con. This is your 13th year, isn't it?
This is the 13th year. We started in 06 at the Student Union at Wright State University in a room about the size of this foyer that we're in right now. 100 tables, and lo and behold, 1,500 people showed up to a one-day show.
Well, if there's any message that you could get out to everybody about your convention, what would you like to share with everybody?
We're, I don't even know if you'd call us a mid-sized convention, maybe a small to mid-sized that feels a lot bigger than that. Um, it's intimate and yet large at the same time, and it's comic centered. It's all about comics. We have some peripherals like cosplay and some gaming and stuff like that, but we're all about creation and comics, collecting, reading comics.
Being all about creation was the first thing that jumped out at me about this con. This is really a great place for artists to showcase their work and their talents.
My experience, I've been doing this for a long time, my experience has been overall very positive, so you get to, meet people that want to, enjoy your work, and want to purchase your work, and meeting other fellow colleagues, fellow artists, you end up being good friends with, and you get a chance to really work on, things you want to create, and you get that support.
As you walked around, you could really see that support among the artists, among the creators in the game room, and amongst the organizations that came out to support causes and communities. Groups like Hero Initiative, whose mission is to help comic creators get medical care when they need it. And groups like The Finest, who have turned their love for G.I. Joe cosplay into a force to support our troops.
In the past, we've worked with the USO, we've worked with the Wounded Warrior Project, and currently we're working with Canines for Warriors. And what they do is they take dogs from shelters and they train them to be working dogs, and they pair them with veterans with PTSD or cranial injuries. And the way we look at that is you're saving 2 lives at once, right? So and a lot of our members are either former military or current military, so it works out pretty well for us. Last year we raised $16,000 for them.
And while the Finest were proud to show off their cosplaying skills, they were by no means the only ones representing the cosplay community. Comic books may be the focus of Gem City, but there was no lack of representation from the video game world, the anime fans, and the general sci-fi and fantasy communities as well. And of course, what is a con without a cosplay competition?
It's hard for me to say who's the best costume. I was not a judge, I was just a host because it's so hard for me to judge, but we had Jack Sparrow, there was a new 52 Harley Quinn, and Jamie Lannister were our costume contest winners yesterday. So we also had a Shogun Spider-Man by a local cosplayer, so there was a lot of cool stuff.
So as you can tell, I have become a fan of the Gem City Comic-Con. I think it is a fantastic convention, and I fully intend to go back next year. And I'm not alone.
The artists are talented, the cosplayers are friendly and nice and creative.
So that has been our time here at the Gem City Comic-Con here in Dayton, Ohio. They've been really nice to us. They've worked with us great. Been a fantastic experience, so we want to thank them. And we hope you enjoy it.
Well, it looked like you had a lot of fun.
I cannot lie, it was a good time. And there were a lot of great people that were really great to give me a little of their time. So, to anyone watching, check out the show notes and visit some of the folks that made it possible.
Hopefully I'll get to travel around soon to a great con myself.
You can do it! But I think you had some helpful advice for con-goers.
Yeah, I do. Greetings, friends. Nate here again. Now, we've all come to these conventions to have fun. Conventions make for a good long weekend, and you're away from your job, dedicating a few days to indulge in some of your favorite hobbies like a responsible adult. So, let's talk about hygiene. Friends, we all come here to have a good time. What we don't want to have is a random con-goer that suddenly becomes that guy who walks past you, poor sod, hasn't been in the shower in 48 hours after attending both raves the previous nights, wearing the same clothes they started the con with, in the same cosplay that's now an off-color, grimy, sweaty, and, let's be honest, now looks and feels gross. I promise you, nobody wants that guy around. So please, while you plan your con, here are a few small things you can remember that will help make a big difference. Soap and shampoo, multiple changes of clothes and underclothes, and if you must wear your cosplay every day, air fresheners and Febreze applied before you go to sleep will help considerably. Or better yet, set aside your cosplay for the most important day of the con and wear it that day. These small things will actually help you with your con experience. I promise you, you'll thank yourself for taking the time and using those resources to stay fresh and clean as a new day starts. And you will also help prevent the spread of the dreaded con funk with nobody wants. That's it. Simple. Be hygienic when you're out in public, especially in these crowded places. It will be tested, and you don't want to be the one who fails, because let's face it, you don't want to be around the person who does fail.
I get the sneaky suspicion that that guy is going to be a recurring theme here.
Well, we did have art made.
True point. Makes me wonder what our viewers might picture as that guy.
Well, they can always email us those pictures, but I prefer pictures of cosplay. Speaking of which, you had a chance to talk with an award-winning cosplayer, didn't you?
I did. I had the opportunity to speak with Deanna Burns and have her share her Yamacon experience with me.
Well, let's see what she had to say.
Today we're talking to Deanna Burns. She won Best Novice category at Yamacon in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. Thank you for coming out today.
Yeah, no problem.
So first, could you tell us a little bit about your background as a cosplayer and what got you started?
I really enjoyed theater. As a child, I enjoyed dressing up, and Halloween's always been my favorite holiday. So when anime first made its way over, and I saw Sailor Moon for the very first time, I just had to have that costume. I've not done it yet. It's a dream of mine to actually make a complete Sailor Scout, but that was what really got me started.
So can you tell us about the costume that won you the prize here? It looks like it was actually two costumes. Who is it, and what went into making it? And what are some of your favorite parts about the outfit?
So the costume I made is a Cinderella transformation gown, and you're right, it is actually two separate dresses that are connected together. There's the peasant gown over top, and with a little stage magic, when you spin really fast, it transforms into the ball gown. My favorite part in going into this was that we had no idea what we were doing. We could easily find pattern pieces for different parts of the costume, but there was no tutorial on how to actually make the mechanics of it work. And it wasn't until I was actually in it that we were able to try to find a way to piece it all together.
So you were competing in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. But what was the size of the competition?
So the contest itself had about 90 people, and they divided them into novice and then moderate and then advanced. And there were about 30 people in my category. And it was really very nerve-wracking because I hadn't been cosplaying for many years, and some people have been doing this for a lot longer than I have. And even some of the people in my category, they would tell me the ins and outs of how they created certain styles or certain effects on their costume, and things I'd never even thought of before. So it was really a great opportunity to kind of learn some things from other people, but at the same time it was very nerve-wracking.
So what all went into making the dress?
I had to learn a lot of things. I had no idea how to make a corset, so I learned how to use a serger to finish seams, how to do boning, how to do piping, all kinds of trim work, learning materials I never even knew the name of. It was a learning process.
So what was the competition like for you? How did that feel?
Like I said, I was very terrified going in because everybody else was a lot more experienced than I was. The judges we had, one was a professional cosplayer, so to hear some of her feedback of what I had done was a great self-esteem boost.
How did you feel about presenting to the judges, and what stands out in your mind about the experience?
It was their faces when I had finally transformed from one gown into another. They wanted to have some reference photos if you were going to create your own work. So I took in photos from like the Disney adaptation and the Broadway one as well, and then were pictures of all of the work and the detail work that I'd put into it. And I'd given it to them, and I was like, please don't open this yet, it's going to spoil the surprise. And when I did my turns and I did my magic, their faces were of just complete shock. They had no idea what had happened. It had happened so fast.
So how did you feel when they called your name for the award?
I cried. When I'd been on stage presenting in front of everyone, when I first gave a hint that something was going to happen, you could just hear that intake of breath, and then like to this day I can still hear them, just the cheers, and then when my name was called, I got really, really happy.
So what are some projects you'd like to work on in the future?
I like gender bending. I like taking characters and taking them from guy characters into female. So I'm working on a grown-up Jack Frost, as if Jackie has now all grown up, and even though she's still very playful, she's more of an adult kind of a figure now, so very formal. I would love to do another transformation gown. Anastasia is one of my other favorite non-Disney princesses. So I want to take her Once Upon a December dress and go from very rugged Anastasia to her princess look. And then I love period pieces, so I want to do a Victorian Sailor Saturn.
Oh, that sounds awesome.
Yeah.
So are there any specific conventions that you would like to go to and present?
I'm looking into going to KentuckyCon this August. No reveals on the cosplay yet, though. That's going to be a complete secret project.
All right, well, thank you so much for coming out. It's been a pleasure to speak with you, and we'll be back in a minute. Sometime I'm going to enter a cosplay contest.
Yeah, somehow I don't see you competing with Deanna. But we have a bit of a cosplay contest of our own. My favorite part of the show, Cosplay Corner.
Yeah, it's time to showcase some of the great cosplay we have seen over the past couple of weeks and tell you who our favorite is. First one that I want to point out here is Wonder Woman, and part of the reason why I like this Wonder Woman is that she was actually part of the Hero Initiative. She was raising money to support artists that were creating comics.
It was great to see a wonderful Amazon in practice here, and it just looked great. Up next we have here from Full Metal Alchemist, we have Lust and a little Edward Elric and a Link here. This kind of stuff, it doesn't seem like too much, but I can tell a lot of heart went into that, and it all looked like they were really proud to wear it. So I wanted to give them kudos to that. Also, insert short joke here. Good job, Edward.
Up next, we've got somebody who is portraying Iron Smith from Freestyle Comics, which was a character that I wasn't familiar with, but I really love the effort that went into this cosplay.
Yeah, I didn't tell who it was. It looked a lot like Tracer. That's what it reminded me of from a glimpse, but I can see a lot of effort went into this. So she had to make the list. So do we call this the Mario Sisters? I think this is the first time I've been introduced to the phrase of crossplay, but I thought it was really cute.
Yeah, I really jumped out at me when I was wandering the con there at Dayton. Of course, this came from the Gem City Comic Con, and I had to stop them because I thought it was a clever idea. Oh, man. You snuck this in here. I did not sneak this in here.
Wow, you know what? You caught me red-handed. But a lot of effort went into this, and I'm well aware of this. And you were really proud of this. We got a lot of positive feedback from the con that you went to.
Yeah, this is my version of a film noir style Sinestro. So yes, I do cosplay. I have not entered a contest yet.
Maybe you will one day. Well, looky here. You couldn't see a happier person if they blew up the Death Star. Look at this rebel pilot with the BB-8.
Yeah, I think the BB-8 was part of a set piece, but you know what? The whole imagery worked really well. I liked it tremendously. Mm-hmm. But our winner, the cosplay of the show, is this Swamp Thing.
This looked like it took a lot of work. Look at all the detail. I haven't seen Swamp Thing in about 10, 15 years, but I remember how popular he was back in the 80s and 90s.
And you should have seen it in motion. Of course, you know, there were a few shots of that in the Gem City package that we ran earlier, so you will get to see how it looks kind of very Jim Henson.
Nice. Congratulations, Swamp Thing. You did it.
Yes. So, from Nate's favorite thing, we go to advice from Nate. What have you got for us?
Well, friends, here I am, about to tell you about one of the most fundamental attractions to any convention, the cosplay. Oh, not this time? Oh, okay then. What about the panels then? Yes, the panels. The events, the gatherings, the voice actors, the celebrities, the informationals, the participation, the games, the prizes, the actual meat of any well-made convention where the con-goers gather and experience the joy and information that the panelists have to offer. So that brings me to you, friends, with a guide on how to get the most out of your panels and to bring you one step closer to being a fellow pro of cons. And like anything, the first thing is to come up with a plan. Let's get started. Many conventions are going to host panels at all hours of the day, and many conventions will have several panels going on at the same time, and it will be in your best interest to plan ahead on what panels you definitely want to go to this convention to see. With this in mind, as soon as you can, make sure to pay attention to the time and the location of the panel, especially if this is a convention you are not used to attending. Scouting the area will keep you from getting lost when the time actually comes, and you will save yourself a bit of headache. Most conventions do their best to hand out panelist programs and maps, which prove essential survival tools for any con-goer. They may also have a website offering that same information if that proves easier for you. This ensures you have plenty of time to get in line, which is important because the line is part of the con experience. Welcome to the convention, where you and hundreds of other people are all here to see and enjoy the same things that you are. Unfortunately, there is normally a limit to the number of people who can fit in a room. Trust me, you will learn a lot about fire codes during these conventions. So, what can you do to make sure you make it in? Easy. Make sure you show up and get in line at least a half hour early. Honestly, if you know the panel is going to be very popular, you may want to get in line an hour or more in advance. But Nate, I hear you say, that's quite a long time to wait. Yes, it is. Anyone who goes to an amusement park is going to feel right at home waiting in line for their turn. So hang in there. Take note that there are often scores of other people who, like you, all want to experience the same panel. So let's make the most of the time you have. Gather your bearings, text your friends to plan out the rest of your con, play a game or two on your phone, or better yet, take a moment and admire all the wonderful cosplay around you. What? That is exactly what you can do. Most conventions I've been to usually have nearby water stations to help congoers stay healthy and hydrated, and you shouldn't feel shy about using them. The courteous thing to do would be asking the person behind you to hold your place in line while you take a couple minutes to take care of business. You will be surprised how well this works. Please note this may not work very well on exceptionally long lines, but before you know it, time will pass and soon you will be ushered into the main event. You've made it. You're sitting down and you're preparing yourself for a good old time. Congratulations. Make yourself comfortable and wait for everybody else to be ushered in. Be prepared to get cozy with your neighbor, as the con is going to make sure to fill every seat. Once the panel begins, please take note of any rules your panelists may ask you to abide by. This will help ensure the panel goes by smoothly. Mind your manners, and remember that we are all here to relax and have fun. You don't want to risk becoming that guy who seeks attention by muddying the waters. The panelists tend to frown on that. Lastly, once the panel concludes, feel free to thank them for their work. I promise that gratitude never falls on deaf ears. That's it, friends. 3 good tips you can take with you to your next, or maybe your first convention. Congratulations, you are now several steps further away from being that guy, and 1 step closer to being a pro of cons.
So now that you know what to do to get to the panel you want to see,
and how to behave when you're there,
you might want to know where to go to see some of these great panels.
So while we don't have the time to tell you about all these great cons going across the country in the next couple of weeks, here we're going to highlight a few that caught our eye.
And you'll be able to find a full list in our show notes as well as on the Facebook page.
First up, we have DairyCon. DairyCon is a fan-made unofficial Transformers convention held in Fond du Lac, Wisconsin. They'll be available during April 6th and 7th. I just want to say it again, DairyCon.
Happening on April 6th through the 8th, Minneapolis, Minnesota will be hosting Anime Detour, managed by Anime Twin Cities Incorporated, as a non-profit convention made by fans for fans, covering the fandoms of anime, manga, video games, and Japanese culture.
Here's something. A steampunk convention known as Gaslight Gathering will be held in San Diego, California from April 6th to 8th. Referred to as a steampunk Victoriana, I'm glad to see this fan base is getting some love.
New York City will be hosting the Big Apple Comic-Con. This is their city's longest-running comic, sci-fi, horror, and pop culture convention. This marks their 21st year hosting this convention and sounds like a very promising one to attend. You will see them from April 14th to the 15th.
Last, and certainly not least, we have TigerCon, also on the 14th and 15th of April. This anime and comic convention will be held in Valdosta, Georgia. They trace their origins back to the Moody Comics and Anime Club in the Moody Air Force Base, home of the Flying Tigers.
So that's all we have for you this episode, but come back in a couple of weeks and we'll have more for you.
And while you wait, you can talk to us in the show notes here or on our Facebook page. or even email the show.
Yeah, just send your emails to prosofcons@digitaledengames.com.
And include your cosplay pictures, please.
Yeah, we'd love to have you on Cosplay Corner. See you next time.